Alright, so this is video number 2 for 10 parts for 70 marks in lead up to the Extension 1 HSC. One major thing that is in just about every single paper at least once is integrating trig with powers. Now the powers that we are looking at in Extension 1 are powers of 2, and it's really straightforward if you look at it in this way. Just be prepared for one usually towards the start of the exam. And if it's an indefinite, it'll usually be about 2 marks. Now, I have a video already up here on my channel, which I'll pop the link to down below. And it shows you kind of the proof to these formulas. But this video here, I'm just going to show you how to do them from the formulas onwards. Now, it is important to still understand where the proof comes from because they could test that. However, anytime I've seen it asked in HSC, you don't have to do the proof. You can just remember what I call the blue box formulas, which are what I've written here in blue. It does derive down from 2 things, the double angle formulas and Pythagorean identities, and that becomes the proof to the formulas. But once again, click the link below and you can watch that video with a bit more in depth. Otherwise, here's the skill. So we have to integrate to start with 4 cos squared x dx. Now, just remember these 2 formulas for me, please, for the exam, okay? It's just the best way to do it, I find, and you get your marks, your full marks from going from this step onwards. So know that cos squared a, and I'll tell you why I'm using a in a moment, but that's equal to cos 2a plus 1 all on 2. Sine squared a is equal to 1 minus cos 2a on 2. Now, all we're going to be doing is integrating powers of trig and making the substitution of those blue box formulas. So for instance, let's look at this first one. We have to integrate 4 cos squared x. I could just take the 4 out the front and say, well, now that's just the integral of cos squared x. And I know the integral of cos squared x is equal to this. The whole idea is that we're getting rid of the power. We don't like powers really when we're integrating. So now I can say, well, that's really the same thing as 4 lots of the integral of cos 2a. And now I'm just going to leave a as brackets for now. The reason I've used a, you'll see in the second example, but for now, a is just whatever the question had here. You could think of there's brackets around that value. So whether it was 4x, 3x, or just x there, a is that whole value. So here I just have x as well. All right, now it's just a matter of integrating this. I'm going to bring the 2 out the front. So now I say, well, that's really 4 on 2 timesing by, I'm just going to get rid of this question, the integral of cos 2x plus 1 with respect to x. So I get 2 lots of cos integrates to positive sign, and I am going to do 1 over that out the front. And remember, it's 2 timesing by all of that. I can leave it in that factorized form, or I can multiply it in and say, well, that's really just sine 2x plus 2x plus c. Don't forget your plus c. And it's as easy as that. There's my answer. So it's just about make that substitution and then integrate. Okay, let's look at this one now. Now you'll start to see what I mean. Notice here I have 2x. So what I'm going to just note to myself, I know that a is 2x this time. Okay, so I'm going to make my substitution. I say, well, that's really the same thing as the integral of 1 minus cos 2a. Now 2 lots of a. See what I did there? Okay, a lot of people are going to make that mistake and just do 2x rather than 2 lots of 2x. Which then I say, well, that's just x minus, now that's 4x, so 1 over 4. Cos integrates to positive sign. And there's my answer. And those both were straight out of the HSC exam. I think either in multiple choice, they usually are, or in your very next question 11. Okay, so the last example I wanted to do, that was just slightly harder. Okay, oops, and that is definitely a square there. the first thing I'm going to say, well, A is x on 2, or a half x, whichever way you want to think about it. I said, all right, make my substitution. Cos squared is cos 2a plus 1 all on 2. Which I'm just going to make another line here, is cos 2 lots of x on 2 plus 1. Now you can bring the on 2 out the front if you like that better, which is just going to give me, the 2's are going to cancel here, so it's just going to be half of the inner root of cos, which is sine x plus c. And it's going to be half of this as well. It's really easy skill. What do you have to do? Remember the blue box formulas. Still understand the proof to them, please. I do stress that. I'm not saying just remember these formulas only. Understand the proof to them. But when it comes to just these questions, that's the answer that they want to see. Okay, have a go at a few HSC questions on these now, and hopefully you've picked it up very well. Whole idea is just to remember those formulas well, okay?